Welcome, everyone, to Above the Fold, your bi-weekly SEO and content marketing brain dump. You got Jeff Baker and Francis Ma here, ready to talk to you about content marketing, SEO news, and basically just brain dump on what we know about what's going on and our feelings in the marketplace. Francis?
Or what we don't know, that's always going to be the fun part of this podcast. And
well, that's why I've got you on the show, Francis.
I think it's also good to know, hey, this is the first one, man. This is the maiden voyage, and I'm excited to see where this goes. To be honest, I don't think either of us knows where this is going to go right now. It's what's so exciting about it.
Well, if I know anything about our performance and anything that we do at our jobs, it's not going to go well, and it's not going to go anywhere.
That's true. I mean, it's going to be the first and last Above the Fold podcast. So let's enjoy it. We'll have a best of segment probably at the end, right? 10 seconds of like the best of this podcast in episode 1, and just leave it at that.
I think there's only going to be 10 usable seconds of this podcast. But anyways, with that, let's jump a little bit into the structure of this podcast. We're gonna pose 3 questions. We're going to spend 10 minutes on each one of those 3 questions. At the very beginning of each question, we're going to alternate. Either one of us is going to do a full brain dump for 20 seconds on what we think about a particular topic. So it's going to be our 20-second soundbite brain dump about a specific topic. It should be garbled up noise and just unleashed rage. Sometimes maybe unharnessed love for a particular topic, but hopefully it'll stimulate some decent argument. Francis tends to come in a little bit soft of center when it comes to qualitative writing and flowers and rainbows, and I come in from a more technical, mathematical side, more reasonable side. So we should generate some pretty good discussion.
Wow. Great intro. The rainbows and I can't wait. Can't wait to prove that point.
I wanted it to be accurate. I'm not going to mislead our audience in our first podcast.
Oh boy, Francis. Our audience. We've already lost our audience. They're gone now. Let's just be clear. They're all gone. This is now just you and I talking, and we're going to put it out there in the world. Okay, so first one, we're going to do our first brain dump ever. And Jeff Baker, are you ready for this?
Yeah, hit me. Let's go. What's my topic?
All right, man. I'm gonna start. The timer starts the second I stop talking with the question. Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead. Just shut me down.
Here we go.
Ready.
What is the problem with content marketing?
Content marketing today, most of it doesn't work. There's something like 95% of all content written out there doesn't do anything, meaning like it doesn't drive any meaningful traffic in any way, shape, or form. On top of that, people are creating more and more and more of it. So there's like 83 million blogs per month being written. That's just blogs.
Bam. That's it. That's it. 20 seconds are up.
I've got so much more material to burn through. Oh my God.
Wow. All right, let's pack it up and go home, man. I mean, you just basically laid out a landscape of nothing works and everything I do is wrong. So thanks, Dad. Feels great. Feels great once more.
Well, yeah, specifically you are on the creative side. So yeah, everything that you're doing does not work. All right, let's unpack some of that unfiltered rage I just had here in the next 10 minutes. Okay. Your response to my brain dump. Go.
So yeah, I mean, as a creative, as someone who focuses on the editorial side of things, sure, a little shocking, a little hits me in the gut a little bit. Everything I do is wrong, basically. How is that? How am I supposed to react to that when every day we strive to put out quality content? And what I hear is that as we go forward in that goal, you, the data guy, the guy who kind of lives in the weeds of the numbers and everything, is telling me my instincts are wrong, or what we're doing, what we're told to be doing is wrong. So already I feel defensive, I guess. This is how I'm feeling right now. And obvious next question is why? Why do I feel this way, and what are we doing wrong?
All right. Well, I don't want you to feel defensive. And if you do feel defensive and you're going to start talking about your feelings, I'm going to charge you. I do have a clock running and my rates are very high. So just keep it in mind. This is not a freebie just because we're quote unquote friends. Anyways,
fair enough.
Back to the topic. I think where people go wrong is when they create good content, which I guess questionably you do. Allegedly, you create good content. If it doesn't generate results, doesn't mean it's bad content. It just means like that's the nature of content marketing, and that means that from a metric standpoint, a pure SEO standpoint, most of it doesn't work. And the reason why most of it doesn't work is because people haven't done the proper research that you need to do into topics, and they haven't discussed the topics that need to go into every single blog post in order to be competitive with the marketplace. So the problem that I have is that it's not very objective, and people are still treating content marketing like it's a subjective thing where you just look at a piece of content and say, yeah, this reads good. I think we should, I think this is a good piece of content. That's your voice, by the way. That's not.
I was going to ask, you're imitating me. That's how I sound to you. This is, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much most of the time.
We have deeper problems in our friendship. We probably need another podcast to explore that. But continue, please.
I can't see you right now. Are you crying into your laptop? I'm
not even going to answer that.
That's a yes. Okay. So back to my point. I think that it just needs, what you guys are doing is right, but I think that it probably comes from the data side that's lacking, where you need to marry good metrics in what to create, like both topics and the actual talking points within each blog or whatever it is that you're writing in order to write more competitive content. So I don't think it has anything to do with your quality. I think that just people don't know what it is that they're supposed to write about and how they're supposed to write about it.
And that's where I want to jump in here, because I think there's a deeper problem. It's not even it's beyond kind of what you just explained. I think it's the fact that communicating everything you just said, explaining to people, educating people as to what the data means and how to essentially content market, that's what's missing. We've spent, 10 plus years doing this. Content marketing has been around for way longer than that, but 10 years doing this. It's already evolved 5, 6, maybe even 8 times. It constantly shifts. People have a different idea of what this is. And where you're coming from is like it's this, you have the clarity, you have exactly what everyone should be doing. That is not clear to everybody. You have some people that obviously look at something and say, this makes me feel better. I like the way this reads. This is my content marketing. It's going to work. You have other people that say, no, I want this to be, specific on this topic, and why is this not on this topic, and so on. So it ebbs and flows. Where you're coming from is something that's somewhat more black and white. Which in a creative standpoint maybe doesn't fit or doesn't, slip in well. The deeper problem is you, man. You, Jeff. You have to explain. You have to be, your knowledge has to be out there more. I think that's basically what's going on. Content marketing has evolved. It's evolved to where it is now. People have to keep up with it. We have to all keep up with it. We have to understand what's going on. And, I think that's the biggest thing, because you hear various interpretations, and I hear it on the phone. I'm sure you do too, of what people assume it is. I think that's the issue here.
Well, I think another part of it is that there's just like a lack of education. So when we talk in a very specific way internally, because we have our understanding of what content marketing is, because we live and breathe that. We've been doing that for combined, I don't know how long you've been doing this, like 10 years. I've been doing it
10 years,
7 years or so 17 years. So we are pretty well versed in this stuff, and we can basically put together expectations on what you should get with content marketing. However, most people coming in don't have that same understanding, and they may come in way across the spectrum. People on the far left-hand side will have heard of content marketing, and they're like, hey, I need content marketing. Full stop. Just, I need content marketing. No expectation of results. They don't know what the content's going to look like. Somebody said to them, you got to have it on your site. And then you've got other people on the other end of the spectrum that have an SEO team involved. They've got specific topics already, and they know exactly where content marketing fits into their overall, marketing scheme. So I think the problem is that the delta between those two groups is pretty big, and it's leaning it's still pretty heavily leaning towards a lack of education and a lack of understanding of what it actually does, what content marketing does. So I think that's the biggest problem in just getting people to understand, like, this is what it's going to do. This is what it's not going to do.
And I think the aim is that you have to be able, my parents have to understand what this is. I think once my parents get it and I can go home and explain to them, no, this is what I do. And they go, oh yeah, we totally understand that now. That's when this changes. My mom has to understand content marketing for this to be successful. So that should be one of your many life goals, Jeff.
Explain content marketing to your mom.
Yeah.
Get her on the show. She'd be a better guest than you. I have no doubt.
I believe it. Yeah. She'd be more engaging. You'd have a lot more questions. What is this? Offense. What is the internet? How do you fix my phone? You'll do some random tech support for her. Maybe even help her to text. But yeah, no, honestly though, it's a joke, but that's kind of, imagine if that could happen. If you could get to a place where you're explaining to my parents, specifically to my mom, what this is, and she gets it.
I think we'd probably be in a better place right now.
I agree.
We would have clients and we would have prospects that would come to the table with a very deep understanding of what it is that they're looking for, and what it's going to take to get there. And ideally, what I want to do is, when it comes to results, I want to remove the subjectivity to it. Like, the subjectivity is all in your creative side. That's all. How well does the content read? How well written is it structurally? From my side, I want to see people understanding from an objective standpoint what the results are that they should expect. So they don't come in and just get, totally blown away when a blog doesn't generate 1 million, hard conversions on their website.
I mean, those two worlds kind of have to, like you've said this before, the gap has to be less. And once you have both, I think the content really does sing. And I think that's when it does both things. It reads well and it generates, marketing goals, leads, whatever it may be. It's the how, man. How do we get there? How can this education get out there? What needs to happen? And honestly, that's probably a question we'll keep coming back to, because as I have to imagine that the second you get something that people can hold on to, changes. Something changes, something tweaks, and suddenly there's a subtle change, but it ripples out. And that's something that has to be addressed.
Final thought on that, because we're at time. I think that's a central point to content marketing, in that this was always evolving. There was never a static point in time where you could say this is what content marketing is, period. Like, it has been, it shifts and changes on a daily basis, because it all, this is all with search algorithms. This is what we're working with here. And we have to play within the confines of that space. So, it's just a matter of getting people up to speed and keeping them up to speed. I don't know how you do that, but question for another day.
Through this podcast, Jeff. That's how you do it.
All right, let's. We hit about 10 minutes here. Let's jump into the next topic here. Are you ready for your 20-second brain dump?
I'm gonna stretch. I'm ready. All right. I'm ready. Here we go.
Okay, 20-second download. Francis, will content marketing survive the next 5 years? Go.
5 years. Wow. First answer, yes, obviously. Personally, I still want a job, but 5 years from now, I think content marketing will exist. I think in the form could change. I think you also have to separate good content marketing through passable content marketing. And I think the real question is, where will good content marketing... You're right.
I know.
I wasn't even looking at the time, man. 20 seconds just flies right by.
It flies by, man. We're gonna have to speed. We're gonna have to caffeine up before every one of those 20-second takes.
You're right. Yeah, I need more coffee prior to all this to kind of make that happen. just to reiterate, I guess what I'm really saying is that, and we know this, content marketing as an idea is not new. You know, there's always been content marketing. Maybe it's taken on different forms. Maybe it's been called something else. Maybe in 5 years it'll be called something else. But the idea of it, the whole purpose of the strategy, stuff based on it, has always existed. The real question is good content marketing. You know, practical, purposeful. You know, where will that be in 5 years? Will people evolve from where we are now to where they should be, or do we have, you know, the passable stuff, you know, where it's doing content for content's sake? I need a blog. Here's a blog. I think this works. I don't know. I think it will survive. What I'm hoping is that, and we joke around, but you know, this is part of one of the missions of the podcast, I think, is to get people to understand that evolution and go along with it. Ride this evolution wave with us. Let's think about content marketing as it kind of goes off in different forms, and let's get to that 5-year mark where more people have that understanding.
Well, here's the way that I think of it. Every single thing on the web is content, right? So whatever you put on a page, that's content. Whether you're putting a video or written text, graphics, that is all content, and that's what. And Google indexes that and uses that information to deliver results to searchers. So until we stop using written language, which is to say typing things into search, we're going to have content marketing. We use language to speak and to type. So as long as we're doing that and we're still asking questions and looking for answers, yeah, there has to be content marketing, with one caveat. So let me back up here. There is one thing that's going to change, I think, and it really depends on how strong this gets. Do you have one of those Alexa, like
I do.
Around the house?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
The AI. Yeah, I have that.
So you've got like your little slave bot around the house that you just tell it to do things?
I ask Alexa the weather. I ask Alexa to play music. I haven't actually used it to buy anything, interestingly enough. I guess I haven't jumped to that. I haven't crossed that line yet. But anyway, I do have an Alexa at the house.
What was the last thing that you demanded Alexa do for you?
It was probably the weather. It's likely usually the weather or a timeout, like timer for the kids. Alexa put 5 minutes on the timer. And then when that goes off, the kids know that they have to run to brush their teeth.
Are you outsourcing your parental duties to a Skybot?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. Yeah, instead of looking at my watch, I'm having a thing beep at me to let me know to tell the kids to brush their teeth or go to bed.
Skynet is raising your children. Good to know.
They'll be stronger for it. Okay. Anyway, I do have an Alexa. There is an AI in my home.
All right, so here's a problem, and this was actually not my idea that I came up with, so I won't take credit for it. We went and visited Rand Fishkin last year around this time in Seattle, and we asked him something that scares him about SEO and the future of content marketing. And it is, how voice search is really jumping through the roof. People are I never see anybody do this, right? Apparently people are doing voice search just about as often as they're doing written search, type search. I don't see anybody walking around having conversations with Google. However, that's beside the point. It's increasing in frequency, and the real problem is not like that. It's the voice answers. So when you ask questions verbally and you get a verbal response, then what's happening is Google is basically taking all the information provided to it. So everything that people are writing online, they're providing a resource center to Google for free to generate those responses. And that also includes your Alexa. So what you're doing is you're giving out free content without any sort of attribution. Whereas if you're searching stuff online, you go to that company's page, and then that company gets the opportunity to try to convert you, cookie you, retarget you, all that kind of stuff. And that all happened because they created content. That won't exist if there is only audio responses. Like I said, They're just taking all of the information provided to them and curating it and presenting it to the audience without any attributions. And the people that get the answers don't know where it came from. So I see that as pretty much the only hurdle to content marketing at this point.
I think it goes back to the idea of evolution, because like I said before, this has existed and honestly will continue to exist. Everything you just said is accurate for right now. That's not a viable way right now anyway for AI to kind of implement, a content marketing strategy. But let's think ahead. I love thinking about the future. I love thinking about tech. What if it isn't, this thing that just spits out answers? What if it's a thing that you have a conversation with? A legit conversation, hey, JeffBot, I'm looking for this software as a service. It has to do this, this, and that. And you start almost like talking as if I am going through, search, certain pages on Google, but I'm hearing it verbal. I'm hearing it audibly. What if it's that? And so the sales funnel isn't broken or isn't kind of like sideswiped. It's actually there just in the verbal sense. I'm having a conversation as opposed to being locked into my device or locked into the computer.
Yeah, but you're still having an issue with getting credit for the content that you've written. Sure, like Alexa might repeat back to you, Francis, the question that you asked me on a spatula for my children was returned by Amazon product.
Very dark.
XYZ.
Very dark, but continue.
Well, I'm not saying you hit your kids with a spatula. I'm just saying,
I don't. Let's just get that out there.
Right.
Come on, man.
All right.
Come on.
Your words, not mine, man. So what I'm saying is that even if your Alexa did say, hey, Francis, this particular company has this product, so what? Like, you didn't go to their site, you didn't sign up for a newsletter, which if you had done that, there was an opportunity for it to happen, you might have done, and you didn't bookmark it, and you didn't get cookied. So, and you didn't show up in their web traffic either, by the way. So the webmaster and the SEOs on their side have no idea that you even accessed any of their information. And if you left without buying anything, they have no opportunity to get you back.
So a deeper question, and I realize I'm asking this with probably only about a minute and a half left of this segment.
You got exactly 60 seconds.
In the world where people don't like their data being pulled, this could exist, except that you, the data person, loses that. You lose one of the sharpest tools in the toolbox, and it kind of falls back into like, does it work? Does the creative engage? Am I getting engaged as a potential consumer to kind of go through this? And the biggest kind of takeaway is, did I buy? Is that the only data that we have?
Yeah, pretty much. So
dark premise for you. Basically, I just said your whole world ends and mine rises up. I join forces with AI.
Yep.
Me and the robots take over.
Yep. You and your Alexa Skynet,
you're making us fries. Basically that's what we're talking about.
Co-parenting with you, and I'm on the street alone, crying, sad and despondent.
I guess we always love talking about AI. We can probably talk about that at some other one, but it's interesting when you think about data and where we are in terms of privacy and everything like that, and what does that mean? But maybe for another time.
For another time. Let's bookmark that and come back to it.
Okay.
Now, let's jump into you're up. Hit me with a third topic.
Yep, your 20-second for your 20-second download. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Hit me.
Jeff Baker, does content marketing actually work?
Yes, it does work. However, you have to do it right. Most of the time, it doesn't work, and people are just creating content arbitrarily and then judging it based on how they feel about it. So yeah, it can work, but it takes a ton of upfront metrics, research, and competitive research in order for it to do anything of value. Oh, look at that. I ended right on the last word I wanted to say.
No, that was actually pretty good. That was actually pretty good.
Getting good at this. Yeah. So, yeah. And I say that knowing full well, because I've spent the last 7, 8 years just neck deep in Google Analytics. I'm looking at data all day long, teasing out behavior trends and all that stuff. And I've seen tons and tons and tons of content marketing not do anything. I've seen articles get nothing but bot traffic, as in nobody even sees it. So I've seen that side of things where it does absolutely nothing. And I think that fits into what we talked about earlier, that 83 million blogs getting published a month. Like, that's just another one on top of that stack when that doesn't work. However, I've seen it on the flip side where we've experimented with new things here at Brafton with some of the internal, like I work on the internal marketing stuff. So that's, SEO and content for the brand, which trickles into products frequently when it works. A lot of my life is defined by failure. However, occasionally there's a couple gems in there that are worth looking into. And we have experimented with a new way of ranking for content. And it's by going through and doing very competitive research on the keywords that we're trying to target and figuring out what it is that people are talking about that actually rank for that keyword that we want to own. And since doing that, we've seen massive increases in traffic to our site. So while that's not like an end goal, just getting traffic, just being the most popular kid on the playground doesn't really make you the most successful. It's a starting point to getting people to do what we want them to do, which eventually is convert. So yeah, we have seen both sides. We've seen absolutely zero success, and then we've seen like massive gains in terms of keyword rankings, traffic, all that stuff. So both sides.
And I was going to say, I think part of the gains is the fact that you have that you have that understanding of purpose. You know exactly what that content should be aiming for, what question is being answered. I think, and it kind of goes along with everything else we've talked about, but when it doesn't, when it fails, part of that could be like we are literally just poking in the dark, trying to figure out, maybe this will work. I'm going to throw it out there in the ether and see what happens. One of the 83 million blogs that are out there, maybe this will work.
Well, here's the thing. Look, you don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to throw it out there in the ether and see if it works. So there is hard data that you can look at beforehand that's going to give you a really, really good idea of whether or not you're actually going to rank for it. So you can look at organic keyword difficulty scores for the keyword that you're targeting. You can compare that against your domain authority. You can look at how in-depth all the content existing on the web for the keyword is that you're trying to rank for and know what you have to do to satisfy that. And you can know this monthly search volume. So knowing all those things and projecting where you might be able to rank, which is what we do now. We project where we're going to rank for each keyword.
Right.
You can get a real clear sense of the amount of traffic that you're going to drive based on where you project you're going to rank. So yeah, you can go in armed with a little bit of knowledge nowadays.
And why do you think why is it so hard? This goes back to the first question, man. Like, why the problem being like the lack of understanding, the lack of education. You just rattled that answer off very smoothly, very slickly, and it sounds easy. We should be able to do this. There's a way, and point A will get me to point B. You and I both know this doesn't happen on a consistent basis. There are some strategies that are clearly flawed. There are some that there are no strategies, and people are still kind of putting out content for the sake of throwing content out there. I have a suspicion that part of this is wrapped up in people's own perception of their own brand, of their own company, and when it's faced with data, when the data guy, shows up and says, actually, this is where your audience is coming from, maybe this is what they're typing in, this is what they're asking, and for whatever reason, it's kind of against someone's perception of what their brand is. I think that's a hard thing to kind of realize, and hard thing to kind of come a walk away from, to have that 180 moment and saying, you know what, I got to pivot. I get it. It's been years of doing this. Maybe I got to focus the content on something else. More often than not, I feel like that's what I'm sometimes up against with certain strategies or certain accounts where, someone has an idea of who they are and you are telling people actually it's something else.
Oh yeah, there's pride wrapped up into this for certain.
Yeah.
When somebody comes in and says, well, no, you're wrong, and here's the data to back it up, that's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, a good example is we never wanted to define ourselves as an agency. So we called ourselves, content marketing provider, creator,
right.
Every variation therein. However, the people searched content marketing agency. So it didn't matter how we classified ourselves because it doesn't matter. It only matters what your audience think that you are. And our audience was calling us a content marketing agency. So that's like, hey, swallow that bitter pill, swallow your pride, and the numbers don't lie.
I was going to say the same thing. I mean, you could have that goal or this is who we are. You could have that identity, but until that identity is verified by an audience, it's got nothing. You have to listen to your audience. I've heard countless stories of companies or businesses not listening to their audience and finding out the hard way. I think it's good that we did. And I can't wait to find out what our audience will tell us about this podcast. Or my mom maybe will be the person to give feedback. I
guarantee my mom and your mom can chat about how wonderful their boys are and how great they are, and probably impose this podcast on their friends who are just clawing their ears out because they're socially obligated to do so. So, and you know what? I'm going to pretend that's a real thing. I'm going to take that as a win, baby.
Yeah, you know what? If that's our audience, and if next week we're talking about specific things about what they want, then so be it, man. Let's just have episode 2 just about our moms and what they want. But yeah, I agree. That's let's run at that.
Well, let me put a final take on this. Does content marketing actually work? I think yes, it does work when you get out of your own way. And I think a major problem is that people they want to write about themselves. They want to write about what they think that they know. They want to write about, they get lost in their own brand, really, and they forget about what it is that their audience actually cares about. And use the numbers. Don't just go off hunches. Hunches aren't going to get you anywhere. That's just a fast track to zero results. And then you saying, well, it's because the content's not good enough. Just remove that subjectivity and add in a layer of objectivity when it comes to deciding what to write. And I think, content marketing will work. I think things will fall in line after that.
Again, easier said than done, but I agree 100%. And I think finding a way for people to not only understand that, but then be able to kind of hold up that mirror, understand who they are based on what their audience is telling them.
And that wraps up our first edition of sorry. Sorry, Francis. I didn't realize that you were still talking.
Yeah, no, of course.
Don't tell your mom that I cut you off.
Too late. She knows. She's very upset.
All right. So that's going to wrap up our first edition of Above the Fold with Jeff and Francis. We will edit this bad boy together, I guess, huh, Francis? See how it turns out.
Yeah, and put some engaging music all over it, and it'll be great. Hopefully,
you'll hear from us again. In the meantime, you can reach us at Brafton.com. Got a Twitter handle at Brafton. We also got Francis's Twitter handle at McFancy, MCFA.
At McFancy.
MCM. Such a ridiculous Twitter handle.
This is why you're the numbers guy. MCFANCY.
And you get me at Baker Rhythms, spelled wrong, Baker_RITHMS. And we'll see you in a couple weeks, hopefully.
All right. See y'all.
Bye.